Hello and welcome back to Read Becca. It's been a very mixed week in reading and in things going on in the world. It's hard to want to talk about books with everything going on, but books are still my greatest distraction and joy, so we're going to stick with it. I do this weekly video to catch up on everything that I read, everything that I'm currently reading, and everything I'm looking forward to reading. So let's talk about my highs and lows this week with reading. So first of all, I had mentioned I read SPYxFAMILY Volume 1 last week. I finished Volume 2 and 3 this week. So in Volume 2, we are following the daughter, Anya, of this spy family. Twilight is a spy who has to get close to a target by finding a wife and daughter to get into an elite children's academy and make friends with this target, basically. So this second volume follows Anya as she's struggling to gain status in the school, basically. And it's just great fun, and they're starting to realize they kind of care for each other. And then in this third volume, we have Jiu'er, who's the wife. Her relationship with her brother is coming to the forefront, and he's kind of a little bit creepy in terms of having a little ownership of her that I didn't really like, but overall I'm really enjoying this series, definitely. And this reminded me a bit of Alias, the old TV series, where more or less, I guess spoiler for the series if you haven't watched it yet, but pretty much everyone that's close to her in the series ends up being a spy of some sort. And this is reminding me a little bit of that, where like slowly we're kind of uncovering that there's so much subterfuge going on all around. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. I think at the end of this, they're looking at possibly getting a dog, and wait till you see the dog. This is the dog. I'm assuming that the dog is going to be like special in some way, since in this series we have a spy who unintentionally gets a family of a child who's a telepath and a wife who's an assassin, and the dog has to have something quirky about him, I'm sure. I'm really enjoying it a lot, and I will probably pick up the next volume if I can, if it's at the library. Then we had my dud of the week. As I said, very mixed week. I am going to DNF, A Storied Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin. I picked this up on audio. This was from my TBR shelf of my bookish books, and unfortunately this was not doing it for me. This had a lot of elements that are just like things that bother me personally, so I'm sure that's why. It is very well beloved and kind of a feel-good story, supposedly. But I mean, I would say this is kind of a lighter, cheap knockoff of Silas Marner / A Simple Twist of Fate, combined with maybe A Man Called Uwe. I didn't like it though. The thing that is great about those stories is that you take this curmudgeonly character and you witness all of the struggle of them changing as a person, and this completely cuts that all out. So in this story we have this bookseller who kind of is grieving a wife that was lost suddenly in an auto accident, and then someone drops a baby at his bookstore because they want this baby to be raised by and surrounded by books. And it's a complete stranger. It's not somebody that knew him, and he winds up somehow raising this baby, and then it actually skips over the entire part of him figuring out how to raise a child, and any of the difficulties of doing that. It's just he doesn't have a baby, and he's this terrible, grumpy, curmudgeonly person that doesn't really get along with anybody, to all of a sudden magic, poof, he has a child, and he's a great person who is, mostly well liked. And that skipped and missed the point for me entirely. What I really had problems with about this that caused me to DNF it is, first of all, I have very big problems with the idea that a child is something that can change a person fundamentally. or that that's something that we should glorify. So at one point, not just in respect to the main character, there is a secondary character who is pregnant, and she mentions as an aside that, you know, she wishes or hopes that her husband will be changed when they have a baby because he's cheating on her all the time. And she clearly has been trying to get pregnant, has had many miscarriages, and the implied effort there is that she wants to bring a baby into the marriage to fix it. And I just find that so repulsive. Yeah, it's bad. The other thing is that I have really massive problems with the idea of a person who is extremely emotionally unhealthy having a child. He's an alcoholic. He's deep in grief. He's completely not over his wife. Nobody likes him. And then somehow he's allowed to adopt this child, number one. I don't think that, you know, that's the right thing to have happen, for sure. But even if it was his own child, if, you know, he were going into the choice of having a child, I think that would be a terrible choice to make. People should not be bringing a child into the world if they are in that kind of headspace. Like, they should be going in, you know, fully awake and aware and healthy to provide the support to the child that they need. So yeah, I really have strong problems with that, definitely. So yeah, this one did not work for me. I really disliked it. Just, it felt like it was using those things as, you know, cheap tricks to pull at our heartstrings. And I think that's probably why it's a book club book that has gained some success. But yeah, I just really didn't like it. So DNFing that one. Then we have my winner of the week. This one I absolutely adored. I think I'm going to read it one more time before I take it back today. And it was The Moose of Ewenki. This one is by Blackcrane and illustrated by Jiu'er. And when I picked it up, I didn't even realize that it was translated. It's translated by Helen Mixter. So this one follows the reindeer Ewenki people of the Mongolian mountains in northern China. And they raise reindeer, but one day one of their hunters, an old man named Gerelchimeg, is out hunting, and he shoots a moose and doesn't realize, because it's out of season, that there is a baby moose there. And so this baby moose, he realizes he has a duty of care to it. Basically, his people would not shoot a mother that's raising a baby, and so this moose goes home with him and he raises it. And it's all about their relationship, and the artwork is just absolutely stunning. So eventually, though, they realize that this moose cannot stay with people, really. The moose gets along with the reindeer, and the old man and Zhao, the moose, have this really delightful, wonderful relationship where the moose goes everywhere with him, and you can see this is them going through the seasons. And then once he gets so old and passes away, this moose remains in the forest as almost a mythic figure. Even though he couldn't live with people, he is there watching out for the reindeer, the wild reindeer of the forest, and keeping them safe from poachers. And so I loved this one. It was so beautiful. This was, as usual with my children's books, this was a complete random pickup. I had never heard of it. As I said, I didn't know it was translated. This one came out in 2019, but it looked like it was only translated into English in 2020. So I suspect, you know, this one may have been a really big buzz book if it hadn't come out in 2020. So really glad I saw this one, grabbed it. Then my other stuff that I read, I picked up Legends and Lattes that came out on Tuesday. I mentioned in my anticipated releases, and I could not resist to read a little bit. So I read the prologue, and it's so good, so good. It's exactly what I was hoping. So I haven't read past the prologue, though. That one is the next one I will plan to get into when I have a little bit more free reading time. I did start my last TBR book from this month, Succulents and Spells by Andi Buchanan, and it's so good. So same kind of vibes as Legends and Lattes, where it's very extremely cozy. It's all about a witch in kind of modern day New Zealand. She lives with a monster, and this biologist shows up to try and take a sample of her monster. So very, very quirky, very queer, super cozy, and it's exactly the vibes I need. I read like 30% in a very short amount of time, so I think it's gonna fly by. It's only like 100 pages, but right now I'm not able to focus in on reading that because of my Booktube prize reading. So that's gonna have to be just a few minutes here and there, which is why most of the stuff you will see here has been like graphic works and kind of short stuff that I can just dip into quickly in between the more heavy reading I'm doing for Booktube Prize. So for Booktube Prize, I finished my third book, An Apprenticeship or the Book of Pleasures by Clarice Lispector, and translated by Stefan Tobler. Yeah, so I can't talk about that one because that's for Booktube Prize. And then I started My Heart by Smezdin Mehmedovic, and translated from Bosnian by Celia Hawksworth. So this is my project for the weekend for sure. This one's not super long. It's over 200 pages. And then because I am almost through now what I had on hand, and I own this one, I'm going to hopefully get my hold in on the next Booktube Prize book that I have. That's my 400-page one. And that should hopefully be waiting for me at the library on Monday. So I'm gonna get through as much as I can of this weekend if I can't finish it, and then pause it wherever I get to jump into that fifth book. So I'm making good progress. I've got 2 more, but the 2 more are about 600 pages. These are all the ones I've got on hand, and the other 2 I will be able to get to from my library. So yeah, good progress on Booktube Prize. That is it for books, I think. I did get a little bit more done in Fall of Babel, but I think that's it. I don't think I really have anything to talk about from this week. I did get kind of snowed, iced in really. There wasn't very much snow, but there was like freezing rain and ice this week. It has been a week of chaos here and in the rest of the world for sure. My job is very impacted by chaos in the world because I work with financial markets technologies, and so anything that happens that disrupts financial markets makes my job a lot worse. Yeah, so it's been a week. I also was not feeling great, both physically and emotionally, so that was kind of a bummer, but I figured out what was going on. Like I finally realized what was going on like physically, and that took a little weight off of my mind. Yeah, so I think that's it. That did kind of set me what's been going on mentally and emotionally into a lot of doom scrolling and a lot of watching crappy TV. So I went down a rabbit hole of watching Amazing Race. I realized there were 31 seasons on Hulu, and I watched the 31st season to start with, and it was great. Really, really surprised that I did not know that Tyler Oakley was on for 2nd season, and I really like Tyler Oakley. He's a famous YouTuber, very, very positive person, so it was great to see him, and it was just really fun. I love that show. The fact that I can't travel right now, and to see them, you know, doing all these challenges. I've always been really into a lot of the cool challenge stuff that they do, and seeing them travel all around the world was an escape for sure. So then I went back to the 1st season. So I completed 31 and jumped back to 1. And boy, can you see how much we have evolved as like humans from that 1st season. I think early 2000s. I was in college at the time when it started, I believe, to the 31st season in 2019, I think. Like, it's just a stark contrast. The personalities of people, how rude they are in the 1st season, like shouting and screaming at taxi drivers everywhere they go, not tipping, that sort of thing, like just really, really horrible. To the 31st season, like they're super friendly and like cheering on their taxi drivers. And I'm sure in part that it has to do with the way people have become more savvy about like branding themselves publicly, kind of, or having a public image that they realize is exposed to people all the time, rather than just getting caught up in emotion. So that's interesting, but I think it was much more positive seeing how people acted in the newer season. So that maybe helped my mental health a little bit, to see positive growth there. But I also finished watching 2 other series, which is a lot for me. I watched Archive 81, a horror series on Netflix. I really enjoyed it. I don't know what the deal is, but I've mentioned this before. I have gone into horror much more the past year than ever in my life, both in books and in series. And it seems like for some reason, with everything that we've got going on, like my brain really attaches to that and finds it a great distraction. Certain types. I don't like the really gross, gory stuff, but this definitely had a couple of moments that really pushed me, but for the most part, it was very ominous stuff. It really fit into the same vein of some of the other horror that I've watched, of being mostly ominous and spooky. And I really enjoyed it, and I think they're doing another season. It could have been just sort of open-ended, and they're not continuing it on, but I mean, it had a good conclusion, I would say, to the first season. Then I also watched Inventing Anna, the story about the fake heiress, the fake German heiress, and their possibly fictional adaptation of that story and the investigative journalism around it. Really, really interesting. Again, it was something that really sucked me in, and I just binged through the whole season. So I've already finished watching all of that. So I think that was everything I watched. I don't hardly ever watch movies. I kept trying to look for a movie to watch and just getting distracted and watching other stuff. So I think that's it for my week, really. I hope everyone else is kind of having a better week, in their personal life at least, if not in the world. Please be kind to yourself and avoid doom scrolling. I know I haven't been able to do that, but I hope better for you. I had a couple of recommendations this week. Number one was just a goofy one. I saw a video where they replaced Timothée Chalamet with Elmo in a clip from Dune, and it's very funny, really goofy, and it looks like it's a channel that is going to maybe be doing more of that kind of thing, so with Sesame Street characters. So yeah, I got that one. And then the other one that I had is from Jen the Librarian. Jen did a really great reading project of reading all of Thomas Hardy's work, I think 14 books in total, and then just finished a video for where to start with Thomas Hardy, and it exposed me to a couple of books I had never heard of before, and potentially places to start that I wouldn't have thought of. So yeah, really, really great deep dive into a specific author and spotlighting that author that I haven't seen anybody else do. So really, really great content there. So definitely check out that video. I will link that down below. So thank you, as always. Have a great week, I hope, and be kind to yourself. Thanks for watching. Why do I live here? These poor flowers are very confused. Finally hit 1,000. So it is Thursday morning. We got a little bit of snow yesterday, and then it actually warmed up overnight. We got some freezing rain this morning, so all the walkways are actually looking a little wet, but they're actually icy. So it's pretty nasty. Now, it's supposed to do more of that in about an hour, and then I think we're inspecting this fallen limb here. And then I think we're supposed to get snow all day after we get some nice freezing rain. So it's gonna be a long day. I don't think we're supposed to get a ton, just a little bit, but pretty much everything has shut down because everything's really slick out. I have no idea if you'll be able to see this, but the sleet just pouring off the roof next door. Crazy. Ripley is so helpful when I play games. What a good girl. You're an excellent window. take that stick home? Expecting all the snow. Is it maybe time to go inside? Seems like it. Yep. You guys are not very nice. You gotta let him come up the stairs. Poor Coco.